Okay, we're up to Pei Zion on Beis the Mishnah, and the Mishnah is also continuing kind of mistakes. In other words, we had yesterday a mistake. Mistakenly, he thought it was what? He thought it was his wife who made the neder. It was his daughter made the neder. He thought the neder was in Naziris, the neder was in Korban. He thought the neder was in Tainim or was in Anovim. We spoke about mistakes that if right, you can't be made for that, right? We said yeah, can't be made for. We had a few different shittas, and today we're going to discuss the idea of yediyah. In order to be made for a neder, you have to have a complete yediyah. You have to have a whole knowledge of either the neder or the day that the neder was made. Rabbi is of the opinion that a yediyah, a partial yediyah, is not a full yediyah, and therefore you won't be able to be made for the neder. Whereas the Chum say a partial yediyah is. So let's see the Mishnah with the lashon of the Ran. It's very, very abstract a little bit. We had this Gemara earlier. Says the Mishnah. Nedarim. I know says the man, I know there's a parsha of Nedarim. I know if my wife makes a neder, that it's a neder. Aval eni yedeya, I do not know sheyesh mefirim. I don't know that you can be mefer. So whatever he finds out, the day he finds out, that's considered Yom Shamo. Remember, it has to be Yom Shamo. So since he didn't know that you can be made for the neder, it's like he never, I guess in my own words, it's not like he never heard the neder. In other words, just like if he didn't hear the neder, it's not Yom Shamo. The fact that he know there was a halacha that way would have the same aspect of what? It extends the Yom Shamo. And therefore, when he finds out that you can be made for the neder, then that's considered, he can go ahead and be made for the neder. Okay, Cheskel, I'm saying shir, I'll give you a bracha. Yisimcha Elohim Kefraim Menashe, Yorecha Nev Yishmerecha, Yordna Plevet, Benecha Yisrael. Cheskel, let me give you a bracha. Yisimcha Elohim Kefraim Menashe, Yorecha Nev Yishmerecha, Yordna Plevet, Benecha Yisrael Yasem Shalom. Have a great Shabbos. Okay. Says the Mishnah, that's the first thing. The second thing, and I know there's a din of afara. I don't know that this is a neder I could be made for. I'm not sure. So Rameh says in that case he can't take it off. We're going to see in the Ran guys he can never take it off. He can no, it's not pshad. He can't take it off, but the next day he could. He could never take it off. Now, what's the first machlokes? Let's see the Ran and we'll speak it out. Says the Ran. Yafer la'achamikan k'shenoid lo shebal yochel lahafer. This is going on case number one. When he finds out that the husband can be mefer, Yafer toichay sayoim sheyadei aloi. He's able to go ahead and take off the neder on that day that he found out that the halacha is he could. The adha huyuma until that particular time. Lo karinim be Yom Shamo. It's not called Yom Shamo as we were masber, right? That when he finds out, that's called Yom Shamo and he can be mefer. Everyone agrees with that. Side of Chachamim and side Reb Meir. Where's the machlokes? Where he knew that there was a din of afara, but he didn't know it was a neder. Yodei ani sheish mafirim. Sheyesh mixas nedarim she'abayla mefir meisai. There are nedarim that a baal can be mefer. Beino leveino, inu nefesh. Aval any yodei shezeh neder shezeh meyois nedarim she'abal mefer. I wasn't sure the neder that my wife made, whether that's a neder that's, in my words, hafarable. Right? I don't know if that's a neder that's hafarable, that you could possibly go ahead and take off. I don't know. So he knows there's a din of hafara. He knows there's a din of nedarim, but he doesn't know the specifics of nedarim, such as inu nefesh and beina leveina. What does that mean? We're going to go with this first pshat, guys. Ikaman the Omer, and this is the one we're going to stay with. The lo yafa klal ka'amar. Says Reb Meir, you can never ever take it off. You can never take it off. Loy hayoim, neither that day, the loy acha shahadiyu, and neither after he finds out another day. Shu yachal hafer. Hayoim, why can he take it off today? Loy mikri yom shamay shehei mefer. It's not called yom shamay that he could take it off. Ela kashu yodeya shu yachal hafer. Right? So he can't take it off. He can't do the Yom Shamo. It's not called Yom Shamo. Why? Because he didn't know the halacha that you could take it off. And another day, When he's able to take it off, excuse me, one more time. He can't take it off that day. Why? It's not called Yom Shammai that he should be able to make for it, only when he knows that he's Yachal Hafer, Pirish. He knows that, he knows there's a din of Hafaras Nedarim. He doesn't know whether this neder can be taken off or not. So he doesn't have a complete yediyah. A complete yediyah would be A, he knows there's a din of hafara, and B, that this neder is hafarable, that you could take it off. He only has a partial yediyah. The yediyah that there's a partial of hafara. He doesn't have a yediyah of whether this neder is there. That's a partial yediyah. A partial yediyah, you can is not called yom shamo. A yom shamo, you need both yediyahs, right? That's the nakuda over here. You need the yediyah that it's a neder I could take off and I'm capable of taking it off. Since he only had the idea that I could take it off, but not that this neder you could be taken off, it's only a partial yediyah. Partial yediyah does not constitute a yom shamo, and therefore that day he can't take it off because that day he didn't know. What about the next day? The next day he finds out, so now he has a complete yediyah, but the complete yediyah is on two separate days. The yediyah kamaisa regarding him, right? Now, what completed the Yom Shamo, guys? The completion of the Yom Shamo was the yediyah the next day, but it's next day, it's not the day he heard. So therefore, just in succinctly stated, Rabbi holds that yediyah, mikzas yediyah, is not yediyah gemura. In order to go ahead and be considered Yom Shamo, you need a yediyah gemura. And the yediyah gemura would be in two aspects: A, the neder; B, the hafara. Good. He only has one. When is it complete? That's the next day. The next day already, it's shine to shpet because it's not the day he heard the neder.
Is this related to mitzvahs tzrichos kavana?
No. There's not new kavana. It has to do what constitutes Yom Shamo. In other words, whether mixus yediyah can constitute Yom Shamo. Here's the equality, Avi. If I have a yediyah, I have Yom Shamo. Question: what constitutes the yediyah? Says the Rameya, both, not one. Says the Chachamim, even one. Good. That's the best way to explain the Gemara. Continues the Ran. The Chachamim Moimim Yafa b'yom zeh. He could take it off that day. The Svirulahu, the mixas yediyah kechol yediyah. A mixas yediyah, the fact that I know this hafaras nedarim, even though I was unaware that this is a neder that was hafarable, you could take it off. However, kol she'ava yomo shuv ein a mefer. If the day passes, you can't take it off. Okay. The yom kama yom shama mikri lin sheyachal hafavai. Okay, so now we have a derech, guys. Let's speak out the derech, the machlokes between the Chachamim and Reb Meir. The guy knows that he hears his wife make a neder. He knows he has the power to make for a neder. He doesn't know if this neder is one of the neders that you could take off. But he doesn't act upon it. And therefore, the next day when he finds out he finds out, and so now, if he would take off the neder, according to Reb Meir, that day it doesn't work. Why? Because he didn't have a complete yediyah. Because he only knew, in other words, if he's made for the neder, it doesnn't make a difference. It's not pshat, it's mufar. It would not be mufar. Why? Because he didn't know if his hafara helped or not. The next day when he finds out, it's already past Yom Shamo. So like Reb Meir, when it says in the Mishnah, lo yafar klal at all, even the day he heard it. Because even if he would take it off, it's lacking the idea that his hafara actually does something, because he doesn't know whether the neder is hafarable or not. Versus the Chachamim would say, no, if he takes it off that day, despite the fact of only having a partial yediyah, that what he's capable of taking off a neder, it would be mufar. But the Chachamim are moida, the next day, you can't take it off. So Yafar and La Yafar in the Mishnah, according to the first lashon of the Ran, which we're going through, which we're going to, again, obviously we shouldn't disagree with this. The first lashon of the Ran we're going through is whether you could take it off that day or not. Like Reb Meir, can't take it off that day. Why? because you don't have a complete yediyah. You only have mixas yediyah. Like the chachamim, you could take it off because I feel you have mixas yediyah. It's considered a full yediyah. And again, what does the yediyah do? It creates yom shamo. Guys, geschmack clear? Yes, good. Says the Gemara. Uraminu, I'll ask you a stira. You want to tell me that what? That a yediyah, mixas yediyah, Rabbi says it's not a yediyah, and the chachamim say it is a yediyah. I'm going to ask you from what? From Horeg B'Shogeg. We know all from Masech Damakis, teaching our kids in 7th grade when they learn Masech Damakis or 8th grade, that there's a parsha of Ari Mikla. The person kills B'Shogeg. The pasuk says, he hits him, Oy B'chol Even, I'm in the middle of a pasuk, Oy B'chol Even Asher Yamispa. What's the whole pasuk say? Oy B'chol Even Asher Yamispa, B'loy Ro'is. He hits him with a stone without seeing, Vayapul Olav, it falls upon him, Vayamos, he didn't hate him, he didn't seek him bad. So what's the mean below? It says below rois. It says without seeing. So the question is the summa in the ballpark of Galus or not? And this some way somehow is only the Gemara can do. In the words of Sully Bornstein, I love it. Merchak tavi lachma, that you're able to bring from left field something zushtel very miklat to Nedarim, as the Gemara is unbelievably capable of doing. So, below rois, the pasuk says you killed him without seeing. Prat l'suma divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, who will say now, Rabbi Yehuda says what? That a suma cannot be chayiv for killing b'shogeg, because below rois means he didn't see, versus what? A person who has the capability of seeing, but a summa, a blind person, is never capable of seeing. Rabbi is of the opinion, the Rabbi says that summa. Rabbi is of the opinion to go ahead what? And include a summa. So now, you just asked the kasha. What's the kasha? Like Rabbi, you have a mixas yediyah, right? You don't have a full yediyah because you can't see, but you have a little yediyah. How does the Ran explain the kasha? Says the Ran, Rabbi Oimer, the Rabbi says asuma, 4 lines down where it gets white. The kivan, the islay mixas yediyah, that what? Shem margish who he's able to feel. Kishabaz etzloi, he knows there's a person around him. Again, if the stone is falling from him, guys, he's not shooting a slingshot 50 miles away. It's falling, meaning it's in a close proximity. So even a summa knows when someone's in his close proximity. I would say even better than a person who does hear, who does see, because his other senses are so acute after being trained by not using his eyes. So now he's able to be margish that to summon him. And he knows the person's there, but he doesn't know exactly where he is. Mamish, since he doesn't see him. Therefore, what? It's kechol hayediyah. Ulupirushay kamadim pirshu b'maslisan haki parich. Midrameya ad Rameya and Rabbi Yehuda ad Rabbi Yehuda. The hacham Rameya b'loy rois l'Rabbi says asuma. Afagad l'esla yediyah shlema. The kasava mixes yediyah kechol yediyah. Umaslisan tani de'eni yachal hafid b'yediyah zu by bayoim. Alma mixes yediyah lav kol yediyah. The hacham Rabbi Yehuda b'loy rois prat l'suma. Alma mixes yediyah lav kol yediyah. And the Mishnah says that Ran and the Rabbanan hein Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Ran. We're asking 2 kashas. We're asking on Rabbi Meir, and when it says, the Mishnah says Chachamim, that's Rabbi Yehuda. The Bar Plukta Rabbi Meir is Rabbi Yehuda. So now, guys, outside. Our Mishnah told us, like Rabbi Meir, that mixas yediyah, loy have a yediyah, because you can't be mefer. The Chachamim, who now will go ahead and identify, as Rabbi Yehuda says, mixas yediyah is yediyah, and therefore you could be mefer. What do you see by Golos? Rabbi Meir is of the opinion, mixas yediyah is a yediyah. Why? He's including in Galus the Summa, even though the Summa is only mixas yediyah. Why is it only mixas yediyah? He knows he's there, but he doesn't know where he is. Good? That's mixas yediyah. Yet we'll consider it kechala yediyah because we're sending him to Galus the same way as a regular Joe is going to Galus. Versus Rabbi Yehuda, who is the Tan of our Mishnah, and our Mishnah said mixas yediyah is yediyah. Over here, Rabbi Yehuda saying prat l'suma, that a summa is not in the parsha of Galus. Why is it not in the Pasha of Galus? Because it's only a mixus yediyah that the fact he's there, but not exactly where he is. Geschmack? Good. So 2 kashas. Kasha Rameh and the Chacham and the Chacham. Okay. Amar Rava, and for the Gemara, Hacham in Yana Dekra, V'Hacham in Yana Dekra. Just look. You have to look at context. If you look at context, you'll be able to go ahead and figure it out. We'll look at context. In other words, each one is consistent in our Mishnah, and let's look at context by Golus. What does it say by Golus? The pasuk. He comes upon his friend in the forest, to cut wood, and his hand slips off the axe, and the barzel leaves the eitz. Machlokes and makas exactly what happened, whether the whole axe or the top left. It finds his friend who makes and it kills him. He'll run to the Ari Mikla and live. So what do we know from over here? The guy is coming to a yard. He's coming into a forest. Amar Rava. Hacham in Yana Dekra, Hacham in Yana Dekra. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Gabe Raseach Ksiv, it says, Vasheva Yavoy Esrei B'yar. It says, anyone who comes into the forest. Kol debar male liyar. Anyone who comes into the forest. The suma nami bar male liyar. And the suma can come into the forest. So now, we have the suma in the forest, meaning he's in the parsha of going to Golus. Right now, he's no different than anybody else. Just like a healthy person in his eyes can come into what? Come into the forest, so too a suma can come into the forest, correct? Right now, so therefore they're both in the parsha of Golus. Now, then the pasuk says, or the pasuk says that an Evan falls below Royce. It says without seeing. The Amit below Royce, the Rabbi says a suma. It comes to go ahead and include a suma. Miyar nafkale. Guys, why would I need the pasuk of below Royce to include a suma if the suma is included already? He comes in the forest. He's in the ballpark. So it must be below Royce is to take him out of the ballpark. That's the context of the krah. That's the context of the krah. Below Royce prat l'suma. It must be Royce is prat l'suma. That's how Rabbi Yehuda would say. So therefore it's a gzeres hakasiv. Even though I hold by Nedarim that mixes yediyah is a full yediyah, and therefore you can be mefer even though you only had the knowledge that there's a pasha of hafara, not what type of neder. Still, you can take it off. Over here, it's gzeres hakasiv. Gzeres hakasiv tells me that he's out of the ballpark. He was in the ballpark, now he's out of the ballpark. What about Reb Meir? Reb Meir Sova Ksiv B'bli Das. The pasuk says again, and the pasuk says B'bli Das. Where does it say B'li Das? Again, I don't have the pasuk over here. It says B'li Das. Kol debar meida, anyone who possibly could know. In other words, you have to have the ability to have the knowledge whether the person is there or not. You'd have to have the knowledge whether the person is there or not. You'd have to have that knowledge. Okay? So it says Bibli Das. Now, you have to have that knowledge. The Summa does not have that knowledge. So therefore, the Summa is out of the ballpark. He doesn't fit the Bibli Das, guys. Good? One more time. With the words Bli Das, that excludes the Summa. He's out of the ballpark because he can't have knowledge whether the person's there or not. So the Summa lav bar meidahu. Vi amit Bli Royce prat the Summa. If you can tell me Bli Royce is excluding a Summa, the Bli Das nafkale, then you learn that maybe Das. Elishmami, no, what do you hear from me? Here, Bli Royce, the Rabbi says a Summa, that would come to go ahead and include a Summa. That would go ahead and include a Summa.
Why doesn't the Gemara now tell us why they didn't? Each one had a drasha based on a pasuk. How they use the other drasha?
I guess the Gemara. You have to see the Gesugi and Makis, right? The Ikasugi is a Makis. This is not the Ikasugi. I guess the Ikasugi might be a Makis. I know the Ikasugi is a Makis. Okay, just let's see the Rans over here. Hacham, the first medium wide line. Hacham and Yani Dekra. Like I said in the Mishnah, right? He doesn't hold you can be mefer because he doesn't hold the whole yediyah. V'shayni hacha gabi suma shaharei b'shageg the rab yikra. It's a gezeres hakasiv below rois prat l'suma the mashma sheina roya kan. He doesn't see over here aval roya b'makam acher, but he sees in another place. The suma lav bar neder who she'eni yachal leda lechavin makom chaveri. He doesn't know exactly where his friend is. Mamish v'yamar play roy's prat l'suma v'lidas nafkalei. Right? Hilka chavilei miyad achamiyad says the Ran. It's one miyad after another miyad. Bein el rabbis it comes to include a suma. That's the way we learn pshat. Okay. I have to excuse myself for 1 second. Okay, new Mishnah. Hamada hano mechasonoi. Which way it's going, whether it's the son-in-law that's muda enough and the father-in-law is muda enough for the son-in-law. The bottom line is the father-in-law and the son-in-law the father-in-law can't have enough from the son. Now, the son-in-law can't have enough from the father. Who writes a lasis lebitoi, mois, and the father wants to give to his daughter, right? He wants to give money. So here's the problem: if he gives money to the daughter, the son-in-law will be having hana, and he can't do that. Now, we had learned early in the Masechta about being pareya chayiv. Remember, giving mezainas being pareya chayiv, and we said the chiddush was this is not considered hana. We all considered it hana, but we said the Torah doesn't consider it hana. We went over it kama pa'amim that you can muda and pay with his chayiv because it's bimavriach ari. In other words, for hana, a person has to get something. Stopping a person from being hounded by creditors is not considered hana because the person did physically get something. That was the interpretation of hana. You might remember from earlier in the Masechta from the 4th parak. Good. So now, if he gives money to his son-in-law, l'chayra, the daughter-in-law, l'chayra is having hana. So how do you manage to go ahead and give something without him having hana? Okay, says the Ran. Why do we learn money? Because he'd give food, then that would be mavriach hari. The Baal's not zeichen that. Behind it, not perik ein ben amudah. V'zonas ishtoi. If you're mudah hanami chaveroi, you're able to go ahead and provide for his wife. Guys, this we had earlier. This is the example. If you go ahead and mudah hanah, the guy can't have enough from you. You can support his wife. Why? He has a chiyuv to give his wife mezainis. All you're doing is stopping him the chiyuv, but he didn't get anything. Good. So we're learning mois for a reason that he's getting something. Continues the Ran. Okay, we're going to see the lashon of the Gemara in a second. Okay, so now the chiddush of mois is that you're going to have to say the following formula in order to avoid any problems. Okay, you have to say the following formula to avoid any problems. What's the formula? Right. He says to 1. This mois is given to you as a matana. Provided the Baal does not have a rishus. In addition, he has to say, only that you put in your mouth. In other words, when are you going to be zoich in this money, kaviyachol? When you buy something and you coin it when it comes into your mouth. We're going to see in the Gemara, this is according to Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Meir, that yad isha ki yad baila, guys. That whatever a woman gets, the husband gets. So if you would just say that this is your almanas, that your husband doesn't have a rishus, that wouldn't do the job. Why? Because he would get a piece of the action. It has to be the second component that at the point in time where the husband possibly could get it, it's already in the woman's mouth. That's the lumdus over here. Let's see the Ran, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. 6 lines from the bottom. Vidafka, the second word of the line. Vidafka the amalo hani trei lishni. It works only if you say these 2 lashonos. 1, that if the husband has no rishus, and 2, you kind of when it comes into your mouth. Aval Amma, if he would say ein lebaylich rishus behen belchud, if he would just say the first lashon loy mahani, that would not help. Why? The masnisa remeyahi. Our Mishnah goes according to the Tana of Meir. The Amma yad isha ki yad baila. The hand of the isha is like the hand of the husband. Kidimuki lobi Gemara, as we'll see in the Gemara. The chitema in Cain ki amalonami elamashat noisin lepicha amay mahani. So what did the second formula add? If yad isha ki yad baila, so whatever eventually is hers still goes to the husband, and therefore you'd be having anah. Mishum the Kivan Shein Isha Zeicha ben Chasen Klau Ad Shetite No Pia. Since the woman's not Zeicha until they come into her mouth, Hari Ba'isa Shah Ein Abal Yachaliskas Mehem. At that point, when it's in her mouth, the husband can't be Zeicha in that. Well, if he said Dafka Kiyamala Masha'at Nice Nesenes Lepich, Avali Amala Ela Masha. Okay, now Maskasa that goes into a different shayla. Okay, so it says you have the whole lumdus of the Gemara. If you go according to the Mandiyama, the Yad Isha is Lav Kiyad Baila, that a woman can go ahead and be Zeicha, you simply would have to just give her the money and say, this is yours without the husband having Rishus, and you're good. Masha'enkin, if you hold Yad Isha Kiyad Baila, that doesn't help. What do you have to do? You have to go ahead and make that at the time she's Zeicha, that the Baal does not have the capacity to be Zeicha. When would that be? When it's physically removed from the world, when it's in her mouth. That's the longest of the Gemara. Says the Gemara in slide. Amarav. Leishanu, we did not learn the Mishnah, Ela the Amala, Mashat Noises, when Nesenes Bafich. Aval Amar, if you would say to her, Masha Tartzi Yosi, do whatever you want, Kana Yosain Baila. The Baal will be Kana. If you would say, this is your money to do whatever you want with it, then the Baal will be Kana, because that's the opinion of what? Of we're going to see that Rab goes according to Rav Meir. Ushmul Amar Afilu Amar Masha Tirtzi Yasi. You can even say the following, that this is yours and do whatever you want with it. Maskal Reb Zera Amid Beis, Reb Zera is the following kasha. Reb Zera Keman Ozla Hashmaitza, the Rav. That the Rav said that you need to say the Lashon that you have to put in your mouth. Who does it go according to? Reb Meir. It goes according to the Tana of Meir, the Amar, who holds just Yad Eved Ki Yad Rabbi, and also holds Yad Isha Ki Yad Baila. And therefore, anything she's going to be koina, the Baal will be Zeicha. Good. So that's what we see. So it goes according to him. It goes according to him. The Gemara now will question, does Rav Meir really hold that? Does he really hold that a woman is dependent upon the husband? In other words, that whatever a woman has, that the husband has. Okay, let me bring you back in time to Masech the Erevin. Let's see what we remember. You have houses. In front of the houses is a chutzner. You cannot carry from the house to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the house, because we're geyser that if you let carry from that rishus to that rishus, you may come to carry from there to a rishus harabim. Correct? The way we go ahead and correct that is erech hatzeros. You put food in the house of one person, and now makes the chutzner, it's more of the chutzner that every person has a piece of action in the chutzner, and the houses, it's all considered one rishut. That would be effective to go ahead and take away that takana. What about houses that empty into a mavui? Can you go ahead and bring things from the mavui into the chutzner and vice versa? So well, that would depend. You have to make something called a sheet of mavois. Just as an air chatzeris is from a chutzner to a house, a sheet of mavois is from a chutzner to a mavui. Remember, we'd have the house to the chutzner to the mavui, and the mavui would empty out into rishus harabim, and then we'd have the mavui with the kaira, with the lechis. That might give you a little picture or imagery of what we're talking about. In order to carry from a chutzner to a mavui, you'd have to have a sheet of mavois. You'd have to go ahead. Each person, you'd have a barrel of wine, and each person is mishtatif in the wine, and now it's considered a communal chutzner. Here's the problem. Can a wife be zeicha for a husband? Well, if you're telling me that Yad Isha ki Yad Baila and he sends her as a shliach to do it, it never left his b'shus. The whole concept is what you're giving up your bailas, not retaining your bailas. If I can prove to you that a woman is able to go ahead and be mishtatef, it must be she does not have connection to her husband, and that's the question on Rav Meir. That's going to be the question on Rav Meir. So, Alam de Shekasha. Again, Mimercha Kavilachma. Says the Urimini, I'll ask you a stira. Kate said mishtatim b'mavoi. How do you make a sheet of mavois? Meiniach es a chavias, you leave a barrel, v'oimer, and you say, harizeh l'chol b'nei mavoi, that this is for the l'chol b'nei mavoi, and therefore all will go ahead and have a piece of the action in the barrel. It will make the mavoi all as one. And you can mizaka that barrel al yedei avdoi, as long as it's his eved, shevchasoi, as long as the ivrim that they're Jews, not a goy but a Jew. Al yedei b'noi yubito akidoilim, older children. And here's the kasha, va'al yedei ishtay, his wife can be mizaka for him. So again, how does it work? The woman is going ahead, and she's supposed to be zeicha for all members of the mavoi by leaving the rishus of the baal. What's happening over here? So, but if you tell me that The Yamit Kana Yasin Baila, if you could tell me that Yad Yisha Ki Yad Baila, Erev Loy Nafik Rishus say the Baal. The Erev never left the Rishus to the Baal. Again, the way it works is that, but every person gives up a piece of the action and gives it over. But again, if she never left the Rishus to the Baal, she's like her, so therefore you have a kasha, right? So where's that kasha? A kasha is from sheet of voice to what? To Nedarim. By that we say by Nedarim, in order to go ahead and overcome the nether, it requires one to go ahead and say a lashon of one, you're of rishus, and two, it's in your mouth. Why? Because if it was just your rishus, it would still be in your rishus, because yad yisha ki yad baila, and therefore when the father would give the woman, it would be to her husband, and he can't have enough ma. It says, and for the Gemara, Moed Ramei Elin Shituf, Ramei is Moed by Shitum voice, the kivin the zakas acherim who miyad baila zachia. Since it's the purpose of miyad zacherim, miyad baila zachia. It's a beautiful round over here, guys. Moed Ramei Elin Shituf, the kivin the zakas acherim, kivin enough of miyad baila zachia. And then the hidam Ramei she'en kinyal isha blay baila. In a normal scenario, like our case in Nedarim, where she can't be zoicha from a father and save it from the husband. That's when someone's giving him a matana. Someone gives a matana, father's giving a matana, husband gets a piece of the action. If a baal would give a matana leishtoi, not vice versa, that a husband, that the father would give to the wife, but the husband's giving, Kansa, then she does acquire it. The Eina Baal Oichel Paris, and the Baal is not Oichel Paris, Kinamina Perekes Ksabatim. And since he doesn't need Paris, it's a raya that it doesn't belong to him at all. We don't find Rameh argues on this. Hilkach, Hachanami, Kivin the Baal Mikomaka and Kamafik when he gave it to the woman to go ahead and be Mishtat in the Mois, it's no different than giving her a matana. And even though he's not giving her as ownership, says the Ran, a beautiful pshat. Okay, let's go outside. Let's be masber. The chesaron in our Mishnah that you have to come up with this formula that A, your husband doesn't have a shus, and B, it's in your zoicha when it's in your mouth, is to avoid the problem of the woman being zoicha and the husband being zoicha in the paris of that. Good. How do we avoid that? We have that double formula. Fegs Gemara from sheet of Mavois that the husband is able to give the wife, that the wife should be mizaka that in the Mavoy, in the sheet of Mavois. And how does he do that? By giving up his bilis. But he didn't. If you tell me Yadish Yad Baila, he never gave up his bilis. It always remained by the Isha. And for the Gemara, when do we say Yadish Yad Baila? That's when she receives the matana. But if the husband would give her a matana, the Gemara in Yesh Neifman says that what? It's totally hers, and the Baal has no. So giving her a matana or giving her rights to go ahead and be mizaka in the wine is the same thing. Once he gave her the mizaka, it's like he has no rights anymore, and therefore leaves his rishus, and therefore she can be mizaka, and therefore it's not a kasha on Rabbi. Rabbi's moed in that case, since it's going from the Baal to the wife, it's no different than a matana going from the Baal to the wife, who he has no bilis. So too by Mavai Shitim of voice it would work. That's the difference between the two. Okay. Freding Marakasha. Esvei Rabbeinu Ravashi, Elu shezochen lehem al yedei benoi. These are ones you can be zeicha shitim with voice. Al yedei benoi ubita gedolim. You can through what? An older child. Abdei shevchosei ivrim, right? Ve'elu shein zeichen behem. And here's the one you can't be zeicha. Al yedei benoi ubitoi ktanim. The abdei shevchosei kananim. The ishtoi. And says over here that what? That the woman can't be zeicha. And if Rabbi says that what then the Baal goes ahead and leaves it, right? Why does the Brisa say that what she can't be zeicha? So really, Bemis, you have a stira what in Brises. The first one says yes, the second one not. But like Rabbi's teretz, the lumdus of Rabbi's teretz, why in the world would the second Brisa say you cannot be? If you're giving her a matana, she should be zeicha, and the svara doesn't work in the second Brisa. So Ella Ravashi says what? Ravashi gives a different teretz. In other words, this teretz we just gave is not going to wash because we have a brisa that says mefurish that an ishtay cannot be. But if it's so clear cut where a husband gives a matana to a wife, the same thing is gives her the rights to be zeicha is the same. Then why in the world could she not be zeicha for him in the sheet of voice? Ella, so we have a new reason to be mechalik. Again, we're staying consistent. The Mishnah goes according to Rabbi. You had Isha ki yad baila, and therefore you had to come up with the double formula to avoid the problem of what of having enough from your father-in-law, who you're not allowed to have enough from. So how is it possible to be zoich in the mavui? And the answer is the woman has her own independent mavui. She has her own independence there. She has a chutzah that the husband doesn't have a right of. Ella Umar Rav Ashi Masnisan and Erevin, the Mishnah in Erevin that says that the woman can be zoicha is sheish shechatza bois the mavui askinan. She has a piece of chutzah. She got a Yerusha. Before she got married, she got a Yerusha that she owned this chutzah. So the husband never had a right in it. The miga de zachil and avshei, since she can be zoicha for herself, zachil achrina, she can be zoicha for somebody else. So if it was her alone for the husband, it taka wouldn't work, right? Because why yad isha ki yad baila? Why over here does it work? Is because it works agav. Since she has her own independence, ability to be zoicha in the shitum of voice, because of her own independent chutzah of her husband, she also can be zoicha for her husband. And that's the mechanics, the way this is. Wish everyone a good Shabbos. Thank you for listening.